right, hi everybody. David Fogel back with you, CEO of the Symphonina Foundation, back with another Symphonina Foundation podcast. And today I am joined by film and TV composer Michael van Bodegom Smith. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm just great. You nailed it. Great
I
job.
did I? Okay.
Well, it's Van Bodegom. You were close, but
All
it's
right.
very good.
Well, with practice, I would do better. I would do better. But, you're not just a film and TV composer. You're also a songwriter, producer, featured artist this year on Star Wars Outlaws, which is up for Grammy. Got a Grammy nomination. Congratulations to you and your team and everybody on that for Best Score and Soundtrack for Video Games and Other Interactive Media. We wish you all the best with that. And I wanted to spend some time talking with you about how you got started in music in general, but then we can focus a little bit more on the types of film and TV that you work on. I know you've worked on Ironheart and Straw and a few other things. So let's pick it up when you're a kid and you pick up your first instrument. What's the first instrument you picked up?
Sure. Well, it wasn't much of a choice. In my school, they had like an instrument fair. I don't know if they still do that, but you would have all the instruments laid out and we would go and demo them. But, my dad played trumpet in college and he was like, "We already have one, so you're gonna play trumpet. It's We're
Okay.
not spending any more money." And I was okay with it. I thought trumpet was kind of cool, so I didn't put up much of a fight.
Yeah. Was
And
your
it was
dad was
silver.
your dad a high level player or was he a recreational player?
Um, no, he was a recreational player. I mean, I guess you could say he was like above average, but it wasn't
Oh,
something that like moved his soul, right?
okay.
Um, so I think he stopped playing like during college. But I was just happy to have a silver trumpet. I thought that was cool. I said, "Look at this. This is." It wasn't even a nice one, but I thought it was cool because it was different.
Now, was it really silver plated or was it
It was
nickel?
actually silver plated. It was a
Okay.
blessing.
All right.
Actually, they don't make anymore. I still have it. It needs a
Nice.
lot of work, but
Yeah.
yeah, blessing. It was a decent trumpet at the time. Now it's corroded and
Yeah, you
dying.
got to keep polishing those guys, right? I have a
Yeah,
silver Yamaha 62 sax, and it's plays great, but you do have to if you want to keep it looking good and playing well, you got to keep polishing it. So
that's right.
all right. So trumpet, you're 9 or 10 when you started. You said
Exactly. Yeah, I think I probably nine because I was an early kid in school. I started when I was like right on the cusp, so probably nine.
and when you picked that up, did you know, hey, this is what I want to do like for the rest of my life? I want to be a musician and
No,
compose and all that, or
no,
what
no.
were your ideas?
No, I was kind of I was not a good kid. You know what I mean? I just wasn't just be
Okay.
honest with you.
All right.
I was not good at trumpet. I could hold my breath for a long time. That was the only thing I had going for me.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't really take anything too seriously. I wish I did, of course. Now I do.
Yeah.
It wasn't until high school that I started taking anything seriously. A lot of it was the household we grew up in, the environment. But now I think I started taking lessons in high school because that's when I showed an interest in it. My
Hmm.
parents we didn't have the resources to do something that I wasn't totally committed to, right?
Sure.
So once they saw that I was like, okay, these actually seems to be interested in something, thank God, I started trumpet lessons, and then I really started to. I think I really just needed someone who was doing it for a living to show me that that was an option,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, and that was really inspiring.
Did you probably picked up trombone quickly after the trumpet too? Then I'm guessing. I know that seems to be a common thing for other trumpeters I've spoken to.
Yeah, I picked up trombone actually in high school because we did brass ensemble, and eventually I got bored of this because they play the same repertoire over and over again in our school, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like an after school club, and I got bored. We played Vin for the Common Man like every year,
Right.
and I was like, you know what? If we're gonna keep playing it, I at least want to play a different part. So I did start learning trombone, and in a lot of reasons, in a lot of ways, it was easier because I'm not saying trombone's an easier instrument, but like it just didn't the pressure wasn't as bad because the mouthpiece covered my whole face. Versus the trumpet, I was playing these super high parts,
Uh-huh.
which I don't think I was, gifted with super natural range. It takes me a lot of work, even now, like a lot of practice and dedication every day to keep the range. And some
Hmm.
people I know can just wail without any effort. So trombone to me was just easier.
It's nice to be one of those gifted people who don't really have to practice that much to keep up where they are and all that. But I've found myself to not be one of those people very much either. There's certain some base level, I
Yeah,
guess
but you
we
know
all
what?
get, but yeah.
The people who don't have that are usually like the best communicators and educators, right? Because in order to get where they are and maintain it, they have to work so hard and find so many roundabout ways to do it. And
Yeah.
this is no insult to the really gifted people, but you know, of course, if you've never had to really try that hard, you can't really explain it to people who have, you know, not the equal level of talent, right?
Yeah, I
And
get what
usually
you're
what
saying.
happens is they get frustrated and they're like, "Oh, I can't work with you. You don't have it in you." And I think everyone, if you really want it, you have it in you, right? That's all you need is the spark.
I think that's true too. I said some other times I used to play jazz piano down here in the San Diego at the Catamaran Hotel. I played for 16 years,
Wow.
weekly almost, and 1994 to 2010. And people would come up and ask me, like, I wish I had gotten started sooner or whatever. Usually people older than I was at the time. And I was just encourage them, you can start today. If you put in
Right.
20 to 30 minutes a day, every day, in 2 years, you're going to be playing pretty much everything you want to play. You may not be playing at a hotel, but you'll get a lot of joy out of it, and other people will get a lot of joy out of it. And then you can decide whether you want to do more than 30 minutes a day and get yourself to playing at a hotel or whatever your goal is. So I think everybody has it
Right.
in them. It just needs the encouragement and the guidance for whatever their hurdles are at the time. So,
Right.
so you
I like
decided to
what you
go ahead. Yeah.
no, no, nothing. I like what you said. You can start today. It's physically possible if you
Yeah.
really want to.
Yeah, and totally under your control too. No one
Mhm.
really is stopping you, right? There's almost no excuse. So almost none. So anyway, all right.
Almost.
So you got through high school and you decided you want to go to college and focus on music and composition. Where did you go?
Yeah, I mean the reason for that too is because, you know, maybe I have a short attention span, but I was doing all of all the trumpet things. I was in the Detroit Youth Symphony, like I was in all these after school groups, and it was all kind of a sheltered classical repertoire. Like even like Stravinsky for them was a reach. They're like, oh,
Hmm.
we're gonna keep it in the Beethoven era, which is fine, but I would have appreciated if they expanded our take a little bit more. But it actually maybe it was meant to be because I got so honestly bored of playing the repertoire and counting rests and counting rest and counting rest and counting more rests. And then I would zone out and I would forget to play like the one note.
Oh
And then
gosh.
they would be like, "Wow, you really suck." Well, they didn't say that, but I think they thought that. I'm like, "Well, I was sitting here all this time ready to go." And then I zoned out the last minute. It didn't
Yeah.
happen a lot, but it happened once in a while. And then, you know, but all that time waiting wasn't me just like thinking about video games. It was me like listening to what everyone else was doing. And that's why I would zone out because I'm like, this is so interesting what the strings are doing right now. Like that's so cool to see it. And I think that was, you know, what inspired me to get into arranging and composing to begin with. And when I went to college, I said, I'm gonna do that instead. You know, I mean, I still play, but
Right.
that to me really called, you know, like the whole orchestra under your fingertips, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
That's and a good inspiration too. You can find in your inspiration even when it sounds like you were in the middle of drudgery at the moment, but you can find the inspiration if you look for it. So when you're
Yeah.
done with school, I guess you didn't really do a film degree, right? You did a compositional
Yeah,
focus.
so I went to Columbia College Chicago. I was actually going to go to University of Michigan, and they told me they wanted me to do trumpet. I don't think they accepted me, is what happened for composition.
Mm,
So like, we'll take you, but you have to major in trumpet performance. And
mm-hmm,
I was like, no, I really want to do this composition thing, right? So I said no, no thanks. And I went to Columbia College Chicago. I actually applied like 1 week before the application closed because I was pretty sure about University of Michigan. I was like, I'm from Detroit, so I'm like, this is gonna work out.
right.
And then it almost worked out and it didn't. So at the last minute, I turned, and I didn't study film. They actually at the time they didn't even have a film music program for undergrad.
Mm-hmm,
I probably wouldn't have done it anyway because I figured like we should start with the fundamentals, and I still think that was a good way to go because film music is something that you can, in a lot of ways, learn on YouTube University or just by doing an internship or assistantship with somebody. But you know, the composition fundamentals, like conservatory style, it's very hard to get that outside of like university bubble, right?
yeah. Did you have some great teachers there?
I did. I had some great, like frankly, I had some not good teachers. And not that they weren't like, brilliant minds, but they had very little patience,
Mm,
and especially when it came to like more advanced topics like serialism, they did not. And the problem was like it was a contemporary like school, right? It was the whole point of the school was working in today's age. So a lot of people just didn't understand why we were learning the 12 tone serialism, more advanced mechanics. And not that it doesn't have an application, but some of these people wanted to be like pop stars, and they were trying to wrap their head around this advanced composition. And I think that's why the teachers lost their patience. I feel like it was a weird situation for them, but I was happy to learn it all.
Yeah.
I had my doubts at some point. I'm like, I don't know about this, but I was a good student in college, and I think all the teachers provided something. Even the ones who didn't have patience taught us something about something.
Yeah, no, I get that. And kind of it's on the student to find those tidbits sometimes of
Absolutely,
gems
especially
even
in
from the
college.
yeah,
Right,
right?
right. One thing that happened in college is that I was forced sort of into the jazz ensemble, the big band.
Hmm.
Um, and I was super against it, maybe because all the years of not playing anything modern in high school. And I was like, no, no, I want to play in the orchestras. And I actually, for the first year, was still doing my Beethoven and, and the orchestra. And then they made me take a jazz course, and that really changed my life. I had a nice mentor who was the leader of the jazz ensemble, but also he was a trumpet player. And I was so bad at jazz. Like it was really embarrassing. I'll never forget. It was like a core memory. They made me take a solo, and I told them, I'm like, I'll sight read your charts, but I'm
Hmm.
gonna suck at soloing. And they're like, no, just do it. It's really easy. And it was just a vamp over like an A minor seven chord. It was like a funky tune, and they were just like boom, boom, boom. And they're like, yeah, just play. It's so easy. And I was so mad. I'm like, how am I supposed to play? It's one chord. And I was like,
Hmm.
after we cut, I was like getting all mad. I was up in my soapbox, like, this doesn't make any sense. How am I supposed to play over one chord? There's no substance here. What am I gonna do? I'm supposed to blow. And then he's like, just you're gonna be eating those words in like 2 years from now. You're
Hmm.
gonna be loving the one chord vamp.
Yeah.
And it's true. I was. Now I can't get enough. There's so much you can do, and that really opened my mind musically too, because it changed the kind of music I was writing altogether. Right, like this whole world of bebop and beyond.
Uh-huh. Do you find that the jazz influence that you have is important to, let's say, symphonic writing that you do? I don't want to say classical writing, but does it
Right.
come into the symphonic writing that you do?
A little bit. I did this kind of mini symphony, not too dissimilar to what you do, 2 years ago called Kenya Symphony,
Hmm.
and the director basically it's an animated story about a girl who doesn't want to go to the symphony, but her mom forces her to go, and she throws a fit the whole time until the very end where something moves her. I won't say the whole thing because it's not out yet, but something moves
Okay.
her, and she decides that she does like the symphony. And it is for her, right? Which I wish that was more of a real story. More younger
I
people would know.
know. I know. So
But
do we
yeah,
here. Yeah, exactly.
right, of course. And the whole idea was to do like a 4 track, 4 minute each digestible mini symphony
There you go.
that, hopefully younger audiences could sit through, right? If it's only 16 minutes long, and more of a modern touch on it.
Hmm.
And I found that, it's not extremely modern, right? There's not like a hip hop beat behind it, but it's more so than, your 19th century, 18th century symphony would be. And I found, the jazz harmonies in that general way they use rhythm to be very useful. Now, if you listen to it, you're not going to think, oh yeah, he got this straight from Dizzy Gillespie, but it does have a little bit of it in it, right? Just enough because he wanted it to be familiar, but also slightly more modern, whatever that means.
Yeah. It sounds good. Well, I think you can draw from all of your experience too. So it's just a question of
Oh yeah.
whether you have that, whether it fits what you're doing at the time, I suppose. How did you get your first, let's say, break into the film and TV compositional area?
Well, I guess I kind of stopped believing that breaks are a thing. I don't. I guess for some people it happens, right? They land like a movie that
Definitely. I've
completely.
spoken with several of them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. As for me, it's more gradual stepping stones, right?
Uh-huh.
Which I've been very grateful for because it's not that I think breaks are great, whether you're, a pop artist who blows up overnight or a film composer who lands their huge movie. But the gradual stepping stone's nice because you can go into the next thing only like 30% confused and 70% confident, and that
Yeah.
allows you to have a little bit more nuance in what you do. And there's nothing wrong with going into something and not knowing the slightest idea of what you're going to do, but it's been nice to kind of hone your sound and your craft little by little. But yeah, I would say the first real thing that, was paying the rent was this show called Princess Power, which is a kids show that nobody listening will know about unless they have like 5-year-old girls. But it was on Netflix, and it was a result of that streaming post-pandemic. Well, I say post-pandemic, but it was still during the pandemic. The boom, like after COVID shut us all down, all these companies drove first headfirst into streaming, right? They saw
Mhm.
Netflix doing it, and they're like, we're gonna like abandon cable. And my show that I worked on was a result of that, right? Something that never would have really been greenlit in the past model, but in this new streaming boom, they're like, we're gonna make a million shows, and they're all going to be kind of low budget, but we're gonna do it because people had all the time in the world, no one was going anywhere.
Right.
And so I guess that was kind of a lucky break, right? I landed this show. The main composer was JP Rende, who does Sesame Street, and he
Okay.
brought me on board, and I was writing, full episodes of the show. And it was great. It was an animated show. It was like all the craziness of like a Tom and Jerry Looney Tunes episode, where the tempo map is jumping up and down like a jump rope, and it was a great experience. Like luckily I was. They wanted more. The reason he brought someone on was because he's a pop guy, right? That's his specialty. He's a wonderful pop producer, but they wanted more and more orchestral stuff, right? And he's like, I don't have time for this,
Huh.
so that was my
Wow.
job. They're like,
Wow.
oh,
Okay.
orchestral stuff, and I started doing that, and it was really eye-opening, right? A lot of work to work on like on a fast-paced, like really no breaks, like a week. It was like 4 days you write the episode, 3 days you get notes, then the next episode starts the next week. But
Wow.
then they
Yeah.
come back with notes from the last week. So then you're doing notes on top of
Mm.
your new episode, which is it was great. It felt more like the old way of Hollywood versus now episodes are higher budget but a lot slimmer, right? They'll do like an 8 episode show, which is basically just 4 movies but higher quality. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah. When you were just first into that, did you go back and look at other animated film work and listen to Carl Stalling or people like that for what they were doing to give you any inspirations,
Not
or how'd that
really.
go?
No, only because they wanted it to be very much like all the music was like really like hyper pop, really catchy. Like they wanted it to
Ah,
have
okay.
this very specific niche. Even in the orchestra, in the orchestra, right? It was they wanted it to just feel really like Gen Alpha. They wanted it to be very like TikTok style, like, yeah, earworm.
Gotcha.
Which say what you will about that, but I figured it's best not to listen too much to something they're gonna hate even if it was for my own edification. For this show specifically, I'm like, no, I'm gonna follow their example because it was my first thing. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
want to get fired.
absolutely. Yeah, that's what you should
Yeah.
do. And even if they don't, I mean, I wouldn't think they would hate it, but it just may not be what they're looking for. So that's totally fine.
Right.
We love a
Right.
lot of things that we don't think are appropriate for whatever it is that we're trying to produce at the time. So that's
Totally.
no problem. Have you worked on crime drama type shows too?
Yes and no. I've worked on a lot of like films that have elements of crime drama. Like
Okay.
Straw. That is one of those. It was not
Yeah, yeah,
crime
yeah. Hmm.
per se. She does rob a bank. That is
Okay.
and she does accidentally kill some people, which is
Sounds
it's been out for a
criminal to
while. Those
me.
more.
Sounds criminal.
But it wasn't like a police drama. It wasn't like Chicago PD, right?
Okay.
It's been a lot of action mixed with like rom-coms has seemed to be what I've been falling into.
Hmm.
But I would love to do one. I would love to do a crime. My girlfriend loves those true crime stories, which is funny because she's very scared of them, but she can't stop watching them. And it'd be really fun to do
That's
it.
that's some of the most compelling, scary stuff where you want to turn away, but you can't, right? So
Right,
yeah,
right.
what is your goal as a career in music? Is it within film, within performance? It could be both.
Great question. That is actually something I've thought about a lot this year in particular. I'm always gonna love doing film and TV, right? That's been what has got me this far over the last 5 years. But that's not the only thing I'd like to do personally. Like I have always been a huge gamer. I game more than consume content, right? Oh, I shouldn't say content. Consume art and TV and film.
Hmm.
I feel like trying not to say content so much, yeah. I play a lot more games, right? And I would love to work more in the game space. I was lucky to be a part of Star Wars Outlaws, but that was more so as a trumpet player, brass player. I would love to get in as a composer, as a producer, would be great. And I would love to. Songwriting is something. I've written a lot of musicals over the time. I don't write the book. There were a couple collaborators who were writing all these books, but we're not necessarily seasoned musicians. And over, through those collaborations, I did about four original musicals.
Wow,
And then
great.
I music directed even more than that. I think I'm up to like nine for various points in my life. And that kind of bridged me into songwriting, right? Into that space. And that's also something maybe my whole life would have been different if I learned about that as a high school kid. But I was, a bit sheltered, I guess, from that. And I was only into orchestral music, which I'm so grateful for because I'm so glad that's a big part of my life and my knowledge as a musician. But now I'm kind of enjoying the new thing. I'm like, look at this, is so great. I only need four chords, like all I can do. And just experimenting with the limits of production that way. And I would love to do it all at different points. There was this one mentor I had in college who was a bit of a prodigy, right? One of those people we were talking about, I think before the show, who just knows how to do everything without seemingly without any effort,
Yeah.
right? And I asked him, I'm like, I don't understand how you are like doing professional gigs on keys, but also like, piano concertos, but also like drumming for big bands and also producing and mixing. Like, at what point, how do you keep this all sharp? And he's like, well, there are years where I don't touch a mix console, and there are years where I barely play any piano. It really depends on what's coming my way at the time and what I'm feeling. And
Mm,
now this year I'm really good at drums, but if you were to make me play a piano concerto, it would be terrible by his standards, right?
mhm.
And that's kind of how I've looked at what I want to do. Like, if film is coming to me in spades that year, that's what I'll dedicate myself to, right? But if music production's knocking at my door and a lot of artists want to work together and make things, then yeah, I'll do that. I'll take what's in front of me. And if I'm in a fortunate position to have everything in front of me all at once, then I can really pick and choose how I'm feeling, which is a privilege that I hope to have one day. I
Yeah.
know people who have all the options in the world and can really cherry pick. That would be great.
And maybe the gradual way is the way to get there. I think if you have that big break, as we were talking about, sometimes there's no second big break, and then there's a bit of lack of confidence about what to do next. But as you said, as you put each building block together, you get the confidence of having that stronger foundation. But I guess the question I have for you, coming two questions. One is,
Yeah.
when you said things are coming knocking for you, I think most people love it when things come knocking for them, but most of the time we're the ones doing the knocking. So, so what is it maybe that you do, or what you could recommend to other people do if they're in the composition world, to get their start, or to keep, once they've got a start, to make sure that they keep on that path and I don't want to say lose their way, but just kind of fall off that path.
Yeah, and I guess this is a good point. Like, things don't really come knocking your way at the very beginning, right? That's very rare. Unless it's like you said, if we're talking about the big break, that's not even knocking it. That's the door being kicked down,
Right.
and then they're like, "Here you go, we're going."
Yeah.
But knocking is a whole different thing, right? And yeah, at the beginning, you're the one canvassing, and you're knocking on everyone else's door, and you better choose. It's not really about the quantity of doors, right? You could go knock on 20,000 doors. If you look at, politics as an example, like if you're canvassing,
Right.
right? If you don't have a good clear message, and you can knock on a million doors and people are just gonna just close it in your face, like what are you talking about? So find out what it is that your message is, right? And in terms of your career, what you want to do, what you're hoping to offer. You don't even have to have something to offer. You can just have a desire to offer something, right? That was kind of my situation. I started working with this wonderful composer, Dara Taylor. We actually met coincidentally. I was subbing for one of her sessions, subbing for one of her assistants at a session, and I was very new to all of this. And at the end of the session, she called me like a day or two later, and she was like, "Would you want to like work on my team?" And I was like, "Are you sure about that? Because like I really, I don't like. Do you want to see like a resume or something? Because I don't really have much to offer at the moment because I was brand new."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, what do you want to offer?" And I knew that. I knew exactly what I wanted to offer. I'm like, "Here's what I would like to be able to do for you, and here's what I'd like to be able to do for myself long term." And she's like, "Well, great. We can teach you those things. Those are easy. I just want to make sure you know what it is that you want to do, and how would you feel you could fit in here." So, which is like sounds obvious, but then again, I do meet a lot of people who get that once in a lifetime chance and then they don't know how to seize it. They're like, "Oh, well, and they drop the ball."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not that I haven't dropped a lot of balls, but
Sure.
you just it's something you should have in your mind conceptually, right? What is it that I currently can do next year? We're not talking 50 years from now. Just what can you do next month even? You were talking about the piano earlier. You might not be playing hotel bars, right? But you can start today learning piano, and you can tell somebody, I hope that in 6 months I can play, all the scales up and down and all chord shapes up and down, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
start.
Yeah, and I think too the other thing to say is when you got that question and you had an answer, in order for you to get that question, you had to show up for that gig and you had to impress them at the time that you did it. So I'm guessing you didn't show up late. You probably were right on it and you had everything that they needed from you at that time.
Yes and
Guessing.
no. You
Okay.
know what I did do is I showed up on time.
Hmm.
I was present the whole time. I was, approachable and nice,
Hmm.
and I was aware and listening. What I didn't do was like maybe 20% of the job. It was really confusing to me. I'm like, I don't understand this or that. And they're like, we need this because recording sessions are fast paced. I'm like, I don't know what this even is. I've never heard of this thing before. So, but that I guess didn't matter to them because they saw that the important parts were there, which is like, do we like working with you?
Right.
Would we hang out with you? Like the classic, like would we go grab a drink with you?
Yep.
And did you seem cognizant of our needs, even if you didn't know how to meet them? You aware that they existed,
Right.
right? And I think that was what, because I mean, a lot of people they learn the tech, they learn the terminology, they learn what all the knobs and faders do, but then they just don't have the drive, and you can't really teach somebody that. You can't teach somebody how to be like a fun, easygoing person. You can't teach them how to listen actively, but it's pretty easy to teach somebody. Here's what this fader does. Here's what this knob does. Here's how this mix console works. That you can learn that in YouTube today. But if we're talking about overhauling your whole personality, that's neither or play. That's not our place to do. And even if we wanted to, we can't. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
big.
The other thing I wanted to ask before we go is when you're playing video games now, are you so immersed in the game that you don't really notice the music, or are you always listening to the music and going, I like this, or I would have done something different here, or how's that go for you?
Yeah, it's the first that I try to do. I try to do the first thing, and the second thing is always what happens.
Yeah.
Because I try not to be that guy. Like I've gone to movies with people, right? And I'm not making this up, where like they're composers and they're sitting there like, hey, Michael, I'm like, what? They're like, did you hear that modulation? Like, man, like I totally would have like done a minor third instead of a major second. Like that's, and I'm like, are you seriously talking to me about this right now? Like his wife was just murdered. He's like, yeah, but like that's crazy. I'm like, no, no, I don't want to hear it. You're ruining the movie. Stop. And like it's so embarrassing. I'm like embarrassed for them. I'm like, no, 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 no. We can at the very least talk about this afterwards, like
Yeah,
not mid movie. Like totally takes it out. So I try not to be that person. Again, if you're that person, that's fine. For me, it kind of takes me out of it. But with games, it's so interactive. Like with movies, I can turn it off, but with games, it's you do something, you do an action, it triggers a different sound or cue, right?
right.
Or like, if you're playing a game and now the games are open world and suddenly you're in a fight out of nowhere and the music is the same track, but now with all these different layers that make it action based. I mean, they've been doing that, but now it's gotten to a point where it's so seamless. I can't help but be impressed. I'm like, what? How did they do it? Because before it was pretty obvious, like back when the tech and the storage and the memory wasn't as good on these consoles, it was very kind of abrupt. But now it's just all so smooth that I'm just blown away. And that's why games are, so appealing to me to begin with, because we've come so far, and even the last 20 years, even the last 10 years, and they keep innovating every year. It's the biggest industry by far in entertainment, and you look at movies and they're more or less doing the same thing. More or less. I'm not discrediting them. But games is just so rapidly changing, including the music evolving so kind of eloquently. And I find that super alluring.
Absolutely. Michael, we wish you all the best, especially for Star Wars Outlaws. Hopefully you'll get your Grammy certificate to put on the wall when it's all done. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do so?
So you can send me an email, but my name is very long. Ready? We're gonna, or you. I mean, you could just look it up, but send me an email at michael.vanbodegamsmith@gmail.com. You want me to spell it out? I can spell it out.
Yeah, go
It's
for it.
Michael V as in Van Bodegom Smith. I think you get Smith right. Smith @gmail.com. And if it bounces back, I'm sorry, it's not. It's,
do you have a
or
contact form at your website?
yeah, you can look up that very name michaelvanbodegamsmith.com, or find me on Instagram, MDVS Music. Send me a message, any such place, and I will absolutely respond.
Sounds great. We're going to listen to some more of your great work on the way out here. And if we can ever be of help to you, Michael, at the Symphonina Foundation, just let us know. Always happy to help. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.